inside the CNO's office, we have analysis divisions that look at threats and potential threats and how we can counter those threats and potential threats. And so I share your concern that any threat in large numbers could become a larger threat. But yes, we do look at that, sir.
Ukraine has been pretty successful in the Black Sea. Would you agree?
I do.
And what's the secret of their success?
Well, so they have adapted faster than their enemy, and they have employed systems in a way that has surprised their enemy, and that is always an advantage in warfare.
Could the Russians have done something to prevent them from being as effective as they have been?
I mean, certainly they could have reacted earlier to Ukrainian innovations. Certainly they could have withdrawn, which is in essence what they've done. But that cedes the battle space. And so the Ukrainians, to their great credit, have taken their localized problem and exercised sea control without a navy. And if your problem is localized like that, then you can focus like that. And they've done a marvelous job focusing in that limited theater.
Are there steps that you would urge the Ukrainians to take to make their unmanned undersurface vehicles more effective?
I would not have enough of a baseline on what they're doing today, Senator, to advise them.
Are we actively in contact with the Ukrainians on this topic?
I believe that we are. I would defer to U.S. European Command on that.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So, Ms. Gassler, first off, how do you all coordinate your activities? What each of you do? How's it coordinated? Do you guys work with each other much?
Yes, we've seen each other a lot lately. Yes, so absolutely. So obviously there are formal meetings through N9I, who's the integrator, brings together all of us. I have, within my portfolio, I have Admiral Trink, but I also have air platforms, I have undersea platforms, I have counter platforms, so I have many resource sponsors. I do the same coordination with all of them. And then there's lots of informal coordination between the staffs and I mean, nearly every day going back and forth.
Okay. So on the marketplace, do you have companies that have concerns that they don't have enough capital, that they don't have enough commitment from government to be able to be viable?
We have not heard too many concerns. There are some. And I think that is why we, the Navy in general, have also made sure that we are going out and talking to the investment community, the venture capitalists, the equity investors, and such as well, to ensure that they understand our demand signal. Within the PAE, I can now, I can proudly go out and say, I have over the FIDUP a $15 billion investment that I can make in these if you also invest. That was hard to do before the PAE was stood up because the programs were spread across, I think, 20 different program offices. So they didn't have the buying power to really get a seat at the table with the investors as well. And so it is incumbent on us to also make sure that we get out ahead and explain our demand signal. As the budget drops, we now have a profile for MUSVs. They know what we're looking for every year now. We can talk about that. As we lay in those budgets, those are public knowledge. We can go out and talk about what those demand signals will be as our resource sponsors lay in the requirements for those payloads and additional vessels. And I think that helps bring in the investment because they know that we the Navy, you Congress, are allowing us to be investors with them.
So, Admiral, there's a $54 billion Defense Autonomous Warfare Group budget line. on the mandatory side of the fiscal year 2027 request. So tell me, what are we going to get out of that? What's going to be the return?
Chairman, the Defense Autonomous Working Group budget is separate from the Department of the Navy budget. And so we have separate lines for procurement for medium and small USVs.
So like how many do we get?
So from a requirements perspective,
What types of things are we going to get?
we are looking to procure the medium USVs and the containerized payloads that will go on them. We have $1.5 billion across the FIDP for containerized payloads alone, as well as the enabling capabilities that allow the linkage between the containerized payloads and the vessels. The containerized payloads will be applicable to the USVs, but also to the frigate program and other ships. And we have separate procurement set aside for small USVs. And so right now we're working on one specified requirement from one of our fleets, but we are anticipating through the CNO's Containerized Capability Campaign several more specific requirements for containerized payloads. And we are not waiting for the fleets to tell us what they need before we start budgeting for that, because we can think ahead to some of the things that they will need, contested logistics, sensors, weapon systems, et cetera.
Okay. So this came through the reconciliation, right? That money.
There is some from reconciliation. There is also some from the discretionary budget, sir.
Okay. All right. So what happens if there's not another reconciliation? Will that be?
So what we plan for is the normal president's budget, the normal discretionary budget. And what we want is to ensure that through proper planning of our requirements, we can articulate to the Congress what we need to achieve our missions.
Okay. So is your portion of the budget inside the dog line, or is it from Secretary Feinberg's office?
Neither. It comes through the Department of the Navy, Senator.
Okay. Separate. Okay. All right, Senator Kane.
I have one more question about MUSV, and then I want to switch topics for a sec. So on the MUSV, you talk about the desire to have these interchangeable payloads. The Navy made an effort to kind of have a similar focus with respect to the LCSs, the littoral combat ships, but ran into difficulties making that work. What have you learned from that experience, and how are you trying to incorporate that into making this modularity idea work with respect to the MUSVs?
Senator, the technical